Hi everyone, off we go on another journey back in time. This time it's back to June 2012 and a trip to RSPB Arne in Dorset, followed by Brownsea Island. And for the first time on YouTube, here's the film in its entirety and its remastered version. Hope you enjoy it. Well, for this year's wildlife watching weekend away, we thought we'd visit RSPB Arne on the Isle of Purbeck in Dorset, and then tomorrow we'll do Brownsea Island, just walking up from the car park past all these lovely rhododendron flowers. We're on the Shipstall side of the reserve today. There's a diversity of habitat here, from rolling pasture land to ancient woodland with these old gnarled trees, and on the other side of the reserve, not too far away, the woodland tends to be a little bit more lush, with still fairly old trees, but not quite so gnarled, and the woodland floor is carpeted with these beautiful ferns. And there's also areas of salt marsh there, also coastal mudflats. I can't see many coastal birds out there at the moment. A few gulls, a distant oyster catcher, and a pair of shelduck. Looking out across the pasture land, we have some sika deer. I don't think I've ever filmed sika deer before. I don't think I've ever seen any. So that's a first. These are mainly female. I'm not quite sure if you call the females does or hinds. But there's supposed to be quite a few on the reserve. A sika deer, of course, not native to the UK, they originate from Asia. We thought these distant ones were the only view we were going to get, and then suddenly we round a corner and happen upon this female. Beautiful, only 25 yards away. She's wary of us, but doesn't look as though she's going to run. I suppose she would if we approached her. But it turns out there's small herds dotted all over the place, and you can get really, really close to them. Well, as you can see, there are both females and males in the herds. The males have got their new antlers covered in velvet. They'll continue to grow them through the summer, and then eventually rub off the velvet when the antlers are ready for the rut in the autumn. Well, as you continue up the path, you come to Shipstall Hill. Quite a high viewpoint that overlooks Poole Harbour. There's Poole off in the distance there with the Brittany Ferry, and there's Brownsea Island. That's where we're off to tomorrow to do some wildlife filming there, and also visible from here the famous Corfe Castle. And as I pull back, as you can see, there's quite large areas of heathland here. There's quite a large diversity of plant life here at Arne, from gorse on the heath, which is now in full bloom, to foxgloves that grow on the edge of the meadows and all along the footpaths. Well, as we explored the heathland paths, we noticed that they were teeming with these creatures, actually wood ants. They're about maybe 5 or 6 times as big as the ants you get in your garden. And a little bit further down the path we found the nest, and there it is, huge wood ant nest. They are quite ferocious creatures as well. I wouldn't like to get bitten by one. Well, we were hoping to catch sight of Dartford warblers here today, but unfortunately none appeared. Perhaps they're on the Combe Heath side of the reserve, which we haven't got time to visit today. But we did get good views of house sparrows. It might sound funny, but they are a lot rarer than they used to be. I've got some nice views of them having a dust bath. They do this to get rid of the mites and parasites that infest their feathers, and it keeps their feathers in good condition. We also got a good view of this greater spotted woodpecker on the feeders. Feeders are just as you come into the reserve. Also, this cinnabar moth is the first one I've filmed. Filmed the caterpillars before, the bright orange and black caterpillars, but never the moth. Also good views of this nuthatch, which paid regular visits to the feeders. Well, that's it from Arne. We're off to Poole now to check in to our hotel. A little bit disappointed that we didn't see Dartford warblers, and a little bit disappointed we didn't see more dragonflies and butterflies and insects and so on, but nothing's guaranteed when you're watching wildlife. Okay, so next morning, it looks a bit breezy today. Just off to get some breakfast, then we're going down to the quayside to catch our boat to Brownsea. Okay, we've paid for our tickets, we're on the boat, and it's really blowy this morning, but we're off to Brownsea now. See you on the island. Here we are, we're just going to pay our £6.20 landing fee, and then we're off to find some wildlife. There's lots to see and do on the island for non-wildlife lovers, like the castle here, you can visit there, and there's a wealth of old buildings, like this old church. There's a visitors centre, rare breeds, and some of these magnificent peacocks, like the one displaying here. But we're not here to film peacocks, so let's go and find some wildlife. Okay, we're in the first hide, which is free, but the reserve is actually owned by the Dorset Wildlife Trust, who are working in conjunction with the National Trust, so you have to pay another £2 if you want to go any further, but the ticket does last you for the whole season. So let's have a look what we can see from this hide. Got quite a flock of, I think they're black-tailed godwit. Normally see bar-tailed, but I think these are black-tailed. See the males there with their orange breasts. Also got a lone oyster catcher there. Not really much out there at all. Shell duck. A family of Canada geese with 4 goslings. See how shallow the water is there. Also saw some Canada geese in a place you don't normally expect to see them. In the middle of a wood. And this family have just got 1 baby gosling left. Okay, let's move on to the next hides. We're just making our way down the boardwalk further into the reserve. We've heard plenty of woodpeckers around, and there's plenty of evidence of them, but no views of them so far. As you walk through this woodland area, you look up, there's various bird boxes and these bat boxes as well. Okay, beyond this point we have to pay the extra £2 to the Dorset Wildlife Trust. A bit later, let's hope we see some of these creatures, red squirrels. Well, we're at the next hide down, the island hide, where we're hoping to get views of nesting seabirds. Well, what a brilliant hide. Fantastic views of the nesting islands. There's about 3 or 4 here. Some have got this chicken wire, and some haven't. Obviously the wire's there to stop predators, so why this one hasn't got any wire, I don't know. It's a bit weird. As you can hear, the air is filled with a cacophony of sound from these seabirds. We've got mainly black-headed gulls and sandwich terns on these islands. We've got birds taking off and landing all the time. Black-headed gulls and sandwich terns here. The sandwich terns bringing fish to their mates on the nest. You couldn't get better views of sandwich terns than this. I filmed some on the farms last year, but they were quite distant. These are about 30 yards away. See the yellow tip on their beak. A lot of them sitting tight on eggs. Can't see any chicks at the moment. See, just catch a glimpse of the egg as this one moves around. Fantastic view. Also, we've got a nice view of an oyster catcher there sitting tight on eggs, keeping a close eye on things. A lot of the black-headed gulls are sitting tight on eggs, but some of them have actually got chicks, unlike the sandwich terns. There's a parent bird there keeping a close lookout. The head's tucked away, but the eyes are open, keeping a close watch on things. The oyster catcher sitting on the nest has just woken up, seems interested in something, and it's the mate has just returned. Just letting everybody know that he's back in his territory. Filmed lots of oyster catching before, but what a fantastic view of a beautiful bird. We've also got a few common terns nesting here, almost identical to Arctic terns, but they've got the black tip on the end of their red beak. There's several other hides and viewpoints on the island. This is a viewpoint that overlooks the wetland area. We've got a pair of little egret having a bit of a disagreement there. Another one up in the tree. Also, there's Seeker deer on Brownsea Island as well. There's a female just making her way through the grassland. There's acres of beautiful woodland on the island. This particular path we're on now leads upwards to the lake view hide, and you could almost be in Scotland. It's absolutely beautiful, but we didn't really see much from this hide, just this a lesser black-backed gull washing the salt from its plumage in the fresh water. You've got a wealth of habitat on the island. There's reed beds, ponds. This one had emperor dragonflies flying around it, but they were too fast to film. But I did get this lovely shot of a red damselfly, which you don't get in Northamptonshire, you just get them in the south. Right, this building is called the Villa, and it's around this area we're hoping to see red squirrels, and almost immediately it's only one, but our first wild red squirrel. Absolutely brilliant. It's just gone up into the tree there. It's the only place in the south of England where you'll see red squirrels, and the reason they do so well here is because there are no greys on Brownsea. Greys spread diseases among the reds, which the reds are not immune to. Also, the greys will take their food source. But what a finale. Fantastic. But unfortunately, we've got to get back to the boat now. It's on its way, so it's back to the quayside. That's it. Our wildlife watching weekend is almost at an end. It's home tomorrow. Arne was a little bit disappointing, but on a different day it would have been totally different, I'm sure. But I really recommend Brownsea Island. It was absolutely fantastic and well worth another visit. See you next time.